Yo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brendan Lee with Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Ralston. Let's see here. Question. Here's a question. Only because I'm curious. Have you ever had to apply Changshin principles of martial arts / body being to real-life combat situations, meaning not whilst practicing on the mat, but during an actual unexpected attack or something, and did it work for you? To answer the question directly, have I ever had to apply the principles in a real-life situation? Yes. Okay, I was working, there's been a few situations, because I have in my, in previous years, I have worked security in bars more than once, okay? And I have had to have physical altercations very rarely, okay? Dad, let me just be clear about that. I never worked at a bar. Like I've heard about some places, like there was a bar across from where I was working where some guy got shot in the neck and killed one night. It may have even been a night I was working, but it was like a bar that was nearby, and they had more of a rough crowd, more different mindset crowd, and somebody got shot and killed. Never been there. But I have been working a couple times where I've had to get physical with people, and, so I'm going to tell some stories about that. Now, anybody who's watching this who is of the martial persuasion, and I would be the same way, likely since there is so much crap out there in terms of martial arts, in order for me to reach people that train martial arts in a certain way, it's much better to show these things than to just talk about them. So I want to be clear that we are pontificating on a certain degree. And I want to acknowledge that I am not showing you, but I'm going to speak on certain matters based on my own experience, and then you get what you get about that, okay? The one instance that I can think of where this really actually showed up for me as like, okay, valid, is I was working, it was late one night, I was closing down the bar, I've got like some Windex, I'm spraying some tables, I'm wiping them down, all of a sudden, out in the front, I hear like the front doors go like, boom, like big glass doors just, they didn't break, but boom, and all of a sudden I hear all this yelling and screaming, so I drop my stuff, run out the front, and there's like a pile of guys on the ground, and some chick over there like yelling something, nah, like all these dudes just rumbling on the ground. I was like, what the So the first guy, I see, boom, I grab him, pull him up, lock him in a choke real fast, give him a little squeeze and just be like, you good? He puts his hands up, good. I throw him away and I start moving toward the next guy. And this next guy, so I'm moving towards him, my bartender friend, I can't remember what side he's on, but I'm there. And then I see this guy swing. The punch goes past my head. I hear it like make a kind of noise. He busted him in the chops. And then he comes back and he swings at me. And then when he swung, boom, I ducked that thing. Like, he missed me. He like nicked my ear. And then boom, I was up, and then he backed off, and then it was kind of over. You see, he was, down the parking lot, he was going away. I think he was the main aggressor. So now in this case, okay, the stuff that I train made a difference. He missed. He did not hit me. See? That is clearly from my training and is clearly to adhering to, in this case, like the principle of not fighting force against force. You can see professional boxers that are really good do this. They will move their head out of the way. Why? Because you don't need to block them. You can get yourself out of the way. Now, so to answer your question, in this small example, and this is pretty much the one I've got for you, is yes, it works. Of course. In this case. And then there are other principles that are likely at work, but then when I think the main point I want to share with you about this is in that kind of situation, there is no time to think. There is no time to, oh, I should apply the principle here. It's just done. There's no thinking. It's all feeling. So consider that. It's not, so the application, so I think part of the purpose of my video here is I wanted to share with you about the application of the principle does not show up perhaps the way that we think it should. Like, oh, I see a situation, I'm going to then apply the principle like a technique. No, there's no time for that. The principle just has to be there. So now, and then does it work? Yes, they work in this case. Okay? But ultimately, the principle does not care, nerding a little bit out on the principles. The principle doesn't actually care whether there's winning or losing. And yet there are principles that you can align with that will create certain results. Like if I spend a lot of time dodging and yielding, which is obviously what worked in this case, then that is accessible to me in a moment's notice. I didn't have to think, I just moved. Threat, move, boom, done, handled. Okay, what's next? And also, like the body being principles, for example, they are in my body. Why? Because I've trained them over and over and over and over and over again, so then I don't have to think. Thinking, as Peter says, is way too slow, and I will also say that from my own experience, way too slow. It just has to be felt and as if be there like a presence. That's not thought, you see? Okay. I'm going to speak on a couple of other matters that have also come up for me in the world of being a security guy or a bouncer, whatever, at a bar, or in the bar world or bars, nightclubs, is like, if you look at me, I am a skinny guy, okay? I do not want to be confronting big people because they will knock the crap out of me if I let them. You see? So now, what does that sort of force me to do in this case? My main strategy would be, instead of going, my main strategy is to have a bigger awareness. I become aware of the entire bar as best I can, and I'm aware of the people in the bar, and then I focus my awareness on the social dynamics, and I as if memorize and note like who's with who. You see, and I sort of go, okay, these people are grouped together. There's a big group of these people. That's a solo, and I'm not really thinking about this, but I'm sort of like, that is the state of my awareness in that situation. And what do I try to do? I try to handle the problems before they're a problem. So what's that look like? Well, in the bar world, it looks like if I look over and I'm like, okay, they're starting to get fucked up, like drunk, which if they get too drunk, I got to ask them to leave. I go, okay, they're borderline. So my red flag's already, error. So what do? I slip up to their friend before they're drunk, and I go to their friend and say, hey, what's going on? It looks to me like your friend over there is getting a little bit tipsy. I just want to let you know I've got my eye on them. This isn't bad or wrong. I just want to let you know if they get a little more drunk, I'm going to have to ask them to leave. So I try to preempt the whole problems. And then that is an aspect that is in the martial domain as like a principle or dynamic of interaction is you handle things before they're a problem. Does that principle work? Absolutely. When you're doing a martial thing now, like back to the more physical altercation, which is very fast. Does that work in that situation? Absolutely. You are much better equipped to handle the situation if you stay on top of what's going on. You never let it get to you're on the shit end of the stick. Okay? But that is, again, a little bit of an aside, and yet still pertaining to the real world aspect, which is, that's what I'm hearing in the question. What I'm really hearing in the question is basically, hey, Brendan, does this stuff actually work or is it bullshit? And that's okay. Those questions are absolutely fine. I don't mind those questions either, but that's kind of what I'm hearing here. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Does it work for real? Now, so I've said a little bit about that. So I dodged somebody, a little bit about awareness. Now, there was one other time where, again, I'm in a bar. I'm starting to escort. I'm actually in a nightclub at this point. I'm starting to escort somebody out. And I see them. I see the way their body's starting to move and as if they're mind, but I'm behind them, but I can see their mind being reflected in their body. And it's telling me, okay, they're about to go start some shit with somebody. And I go, nope, boom, lock them up again. Choke, rear naked choke, all the way, sink it in real fast. And then they start to struggle with me, and I just gave them a little squeeze, like tell them, this hole gets smaller, hello. And I said, look, I will put you to sleep right now. I just said it right in their ear. Don't fight me. Like, I'm going to put you to sleep if you fight me, basically. And they go, oh, hands up, and I just calmly walk them out and then just let them out. See, so now, again, what's going on there? I would say the main thing that is there is my awareness of potential. And that is as if a principle in itself. And does that work? Yes. Hey, nip it in the bud. Do not let it go to full-on brawl. Okay? Now, another aspect is I've done quite a bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not claiming to be a master. I would say I'm decent for what I've got going on at this stage. And when I lock in the choke, boom, I can do that quickly. I can also get it into the right position quickly, which is like the arm under the chin. There's like a dynamic in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any sort of joint or choking technique where you want it cinched up tight so there's no gaps, like everything is locked tight. So boom, I can get it to a locked tight situation quickly. Now that's a dynamic which could almost be like a principle of operation, where that's how you have power in that world, is things are tight and you know exactly how to do maximum leverage with minimum effort, and then that produces a result. And then going back to your question, does that work? Absolutely, in these cases. Okay, so that's a principle that exists in grappling. Now we don't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here. That's not Cheng Shin, but we do grapple. And then I also have done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so this tightness dynamic or principle is in our grappling as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is basically judo. That's where it comes from. And does that work? Absolutely, it works. And again, the awareness aspect, that comes from lots of training as well. So do these things work? In brief, short answer, yes. Now, how can that help you other than right now just stimulating your intellectual mind or some new concepts about these matters? That can help in those domains to get you to consider. But if you really want to have the experience for yourself, you need to go try it out. I'm not saying get in a street fight, but, maybe get into, if you're not already into some martial art where there is free fighting, where they're not going to go along with your program, and the arts that do this, to my knowledge so far, are judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, MMA, boxing, wrestling, fencing probably. And I bet this is taking it to another domain of which I have very little experience, paintball or airsoft. But this is with projectiles. Totally different deal. I don't work in those domains. I have very, 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 very little. I know how to shoot a gun and things, but it's different. But go check it out. Investigate. Again, this is probably going to be a run-on theme, and most of my videos is always like, go take a look. Investigate. Report back. Let me know what happens. Because that's sort of how I'm seeing the real benefit to the viewer here is go check it out for sure. And question and be honest. Cool. There was something else about principles. Here's one more story, again from the martial domain, but I have heard this. So I've trained at different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms. I've done several. I was in Vermont. I was in Hawaii for a while. I trained with BJ Penn, not with BJ, but with his older brother Jay at their place in Hilo. And I learned a lot from those guys. And I have had, and in San Francisco, I have had with Denny Procopos, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, some stuff like that. Much love for that art. I mean, it's great for me. I love it. That's an aside. I have had more than one person in more than one place see how I moved and go, where did you learn to move like that? Like you move a little bit different than other people. Now, I didn't ask them to tell me this. They just told me, and I've had it happen more than once. And so what I gather from that is, you see, that's the body being on my body, as if. That's my immersion in those principles on how to move effectively, how to move effortlessly and smoothly. These things make a difference that is obvious to other people. So, does that stuff work? Yes. I can probably hit, and I have been, I think somebody said this to me once, like, man, you hit quite hard. Because I'm skinny, but I can hit quite hard. You see? And then so from that perspective, does it work? Again, yes. However, check it out for yourself. And again, I am acknowledging that these are claims on a video I'm not showing, and we're not getting that real feedback. So that to me in my mind would be a whole nother level would be to demonstrate this and demonstrate why, so that then it can show up. Other than that, please feel free to investigate and write me back if you find something or, what you discover. All right. So I hope this has been useful and valuable for you in this video. This is Brennan Lee with Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Ralston. I'll catch you later. Ciao.